Our next panel discussion will put the spotlight on the shape of retail, retooling the supply chain for new retail. Retooling the supply chains for new retail. Please welcome our panel. He is head of SCM at Bestseller India. Please welcome Ranjan Sharma. Come on, guys. I think we can give Ranjan a round of applause. Thank you so much. He is co-founder and chief executive officer, 91 Square Feet. A warm welcome to Amit Bansal. He is director and business leader, India and South Asia, Sensormatic Solutions, Johnson Controls. Please welcome Bharat Singh. Joining us online as the fourth member of the panel, Invest India, Government of India, Arnav Kalia. Arnav Kalia joining us online. He is from Invest India, Government of India Enterprise. Yes, welcome to you, Arnav. And our moderator is Senior Manager, Accenture. Please welcome Richa Khanna, who will also be with us online. Okay, Richa, welcome, and over to you and the panel.
Thank you so much. So let's begin this. So I think in the months after the beginning of pandemic, all eyes indeed have been on the supply chain, and the supply chain leaders today have to figure out how to quickly, cost effectively, and responsibly meet the ever-changing demand while ensuring their supply chains are as flexible as possible. Right, so today there is no new normal, and the supply chain is to survive. It has to be flexible, resilient forever. Right? With that note, a very, very good morning, afternoon to all of you, all the panelists. I'm Richa, and I'm the product growth and cloud lead with Accenture Retail Industry, and I'm very, very pleased to host our panel who just got introduced. Right? So let's begin this right away. Right? So as per Accenture research, we are seeing that 3 out of 4 supply chains broke down during the pandemic years, and 94% of the Fortune 1000 companies are still seeing supply chain disruption from it. So let's begin by hearing from each one of you. Maybe in 1 minute, could you give us a highlight on how supply chain has been disrupted in your business? And I would first like to begin with Arnav. So over to you, Arnav.
Yeah, thank you, Richa, for the introduction. My name is Arnav, and I lead the retail and e-commerce team at Invest India. Just a brief background on Invest India. So we're the National Investment and Promotion Facilitation Agency of the Government of India, and we essentially help all foreign retailers set up their operations in India. Now, talking about how supply chain has disrupted this business. So, when we talk about the lockdown and more importantly, the various movement restrictions that were placed, this marked an inflection point for retail and e-commerce market in India. It changed everything from how businesses operate to how the end user consume. So there was a strong need to understand how retail would evolve into e-commerce. And the development of e-commerce was primarily dominated by certain triggers. And we believe that these triggers were firstly accessibility, which was of course led by the shutdown of the commercial establishment. Then there was consumer unwillingness. Of course, consumers were encouraged not to step outside. Safety was, of course, was paramount. And third and most important segment was the cost pressures on business establishment to basically reduce their overall rentals and make sure that, how will they maintain their defunct shops. So as consumers started relying more and more on e-commerce, e-commerce essentially became the backbone of the entire nation, servicing more than 1.3 billion people in India. As part of the previous panel, someone had, said that digitization was essentially accelerated during this time. This paved the way for UPI. This paved the way for e-commerce to develop faster, possibly faster by 2 to 3 years. Adoption was just off the roof. Certain key elements of this was, we saw UPI transactions increase by 73% year on year in February 2021. We saw the net transaction value over UPI cross $100 billion in October 2021, which was versus $27 billion in March 2020. Digital wallets, credit cards, and debit cards made most of the payments made online. And tax on UPI has also increased by 90% in the same period of time. So yes, what was essentially retail's loss was e-commerce's gain, and everyone has adapted and adapted quite well. Over to you, Rachel.
That's some great insights, Arnav. So why don't we hear about some of the key challenges, Ranjan, from you?
Thanks, Richa. So I think there were many challenges, but primarily it was more driven through change in the behavior of consumers, uh, change in the behavior of people, uh, and which meant people across the supply chain were not available, or if they were available, they were far too conscious. Whether in the manufacturing units, whether in the distribution centers, whether in the delivery centers, whether in the logistics space, which means most of these areas had got impacted in some way or the other. And to top it all, the change in the behavior from the consumer's perspective was driving the whole uh, atmosphere into a very, very different tangent, because if people, organizations are not prepared for uh, taking the e-commerce to that scale or becoming an omni-channel retailer, uh, they were up for some setback. So, which meant that they had to uh, regroup, re-energize the whole ecosystem, and in spite of the stores not being available, in spite of the stores not being operational, e-commerce and omni-channel got a big, big push, which was reskilling people in terms of the whole of the supply chain and making inventory available across your value chain. So that was the major aspect where a lot of disruptions happened, and an organization had to retool and reskill people as well.
Absolutely. So let's hear it from you. I mean, very unique, marketplace model of your organization.
Yes, Richa. So 91 square feet started with a simple observation that we have seen Starbucks built in 10,000 outlets in the United States in first 13 years since its inception. There's a company called Luckin Coffee in China which built 8,000 outlets in first 3 years. But we don't see that pace of growth in India's retailing ecosystem when it comes to organized retailing, of organized offline retailing. So, and when we looked deeply into the problem, we realized that it is because that there are a lot of practical challenges in the ecosystem. The supply side ecosystem of doing retail fit outs is very unorganized. Every brand is trying to figure out their own playbook, how they will go about, finalizing the suppliers, finalizing the designs of the stores, doing the quality checks of the stores, doing the maintenance when the store is live. Everybody is trying to figure out their own playbook. And there's no go-to player in the industry. Like, you ask 10 retailers that who's the best supplier to fit out your stores, maybe most of them will say different names. So that's when we thought, I think India industry is ripe enough for technology innovations in the retail project supply chain. And that's what we are doing. We are looking at each aspect of project very deeply, be it pre-planning the store, what kind of components will go into it. We have a technology intervention there wherein the store recce's are being carried out with a mobile app. The environment of the store is being mapped 3D. And when it comes to delivering the components, the product fixture, display stand, everything that goes inside a store, we are kind of barcoding every component which will go inside a store, and every component goes through 45 quality checks, and it all happens on a technology platform wherein stakeholders collaborate amongst themselves to provide a seamless experience for brands to expand very fast.
That's some great insights on the over there. So, Bharat, what do you have to say about the, how supply chain is disrupting your work?
So Richa, yeah, from my perspective, given we, Sensomatic as a technology company in retail, we represent customers. So all my engagement in last 1.5 years during COVID era, the one thing which stands out is the retailers. They know how to drive their business in terms of driving sales. But the current challenge because of COVID is they want to capture more and more sales, which means that they have footfall because there are limited opening in terms of the COVID lockdown. So during that store opening, how do they capture more and more sales? So that has been the challenge, and we also struggled a lot in terms of what technology we should provide them so that they are able to capture more sales with respect to the footfall. So we are supporting some of the customers doing proof of concepts. We are also evolving in that space. But the challenge which stands out clearly in COVID was how do they capture more and more sales, because customer has a choice, and they are more purposeful. You know, when they go out to buy something, they are quite purposeful in what they want to buy, unlike the earlier days. So post-COVID, capturing more sales with respect to the footfall is a challenge which we see from a technology standpoint.
Those are some great insights. Thank you so much for that. I heard unorganized retail. I heard challenge with increasing more sales, cost pressures from you, Arnav. So coming back to you, Arnav, right? You must have seen so many retail businesses closely, while facilitating the investments. So post-pandemic, can you talk about how has your investment philosophy evolved?
Okay, yeah, thank you, Richa. So again, just reiterating my points from before, we have understood that the e-commerce market was one of the biggest beneficiary of the pandemic. And as previously highlighted by one of the panelists, it brought about a structural shift in shopping behavior. Everything was dominated by how consumers consume, and everything else was a follow-up of that. So in our experience, what we've seen is that the biggest beneficiaries of the rise in demand were categories such as groceries, home office essentials, furniture, consumer electronics, health, fitness, household products. Based on that, there were certain notable segments that we saw growth in more than other sectors. The first one being, of course, hyperlocal. Of course, the growth in hyperlocal was primarily driven by consumers' need for accessibility, and businesses had to ensure that their revenues that were declining were offset by some sort of e-commerce sales. So when we talk about the hyperlocal market, it's now expected to grow to nearly $13 billion by 2030. So we have seen companies like Zomato, Dunzo, Swiggy, Grofers have now become household names. Another segment that saw tremendous growth during this time was health tech, which also, of course, includes telemedicine. What is really interesting is that, at least 15 million Indians opted for online healthcare between March and May 2020. Now, these are unprecedented numbers because, online medicine is still a fairly new segment in India. And not just that, when we look at teleconsultation as a niche market itself, it grew from $26 million in March 2020 to $126 million in March 2021. That is, again, unprecedented growth over just a period of time. So, again, like the previous segment, we have now seen that brand names like 1mg and Farmy, they have also become household names. When we're talking strictly about investment, there is no secret that EdTech has been one of the biggest attractors of investment coming in. Of course, in 2020, the space itself received about $2.2 billion of funding, and in 2021 already it's received about $4 billion in funding. So this market is also expected to grow to about $3.5 billion by 2023. So these were the three key subsectors within retail and e-commerce where we saw immense growth during this period of about 1.5 to 2 years. Now when we talk about segments growing, it's very important for the government support to be part of these segments to ensure that thriving sectors get some sort of government support as well. So when we're talking about government support during the COVID-19 time, we saw various schemes, including the Emergency Credit Line Guarantee Scheme, where $61 billion was guaranteed to MSMEs. We saw support from important associations like the FSSAI, which provided amazing support to hyperlocals, on the lines of commencing new operations, on the lines of offering temporary measures to ensure businesses do not go out during this very critical time. We saw various state and central government associations coming out with regular notifications during the lockdowns, ensuring that essential services do not get hampered during this period at all. As health tech also developed, as I previously highlighted, there were telemedicine practice guidelines that were launched in March 2020, which provided guidelines on conduct, duties, as well as framework to ensure how consultation online can be done. Considering health tech is still a very sensitive subject when it comes to online operations. We saw similar growth stories in EdTech as well because the government launched programs like Swayam. And in terms of how Invest India helped, we had something called the Business Investment Business Immunity Platform, which we launched in March 2020, which was just to ensure that companies are able to navigate through their supply chain, manufacturing, and other lockdown related issues. So we were actually in touch with most e-commerce companies during the time when essential passes were needed, movement passes were needed, and intercity movement of trucks had become a problem. So navigating a problem like COVID required the government infrastructure in place, required the government support as well, and we've seen the development in all of these sectors that I've highlighted. So yeah, that's all for me on this.
Awesome. Thank you so much. That was some great insights, into the multiple sectors you talked about. You know, coming to you, Ranjan, we also talked about some of the challenges. And we at Accenture, multiple sectors as well as retail, we have also seen a lot of challenges in terms of lack of transparency and visibility across the enterprises. Right? So the challenges that you talked about. So Bestseller being an umbrella brand, right, of multiple famous brands, with so much disruption in place. How did you manage to ensure resiliency and end-to-end visibility in your supply chain? Do you want to talk about that, Ranjan?
Yeah, sure, Richa. So I think the most important thing was having a single view of your inventory across your enterprise and being able to leverage the same inventory from whichever channel the customer was coming in. So it was, prior to COVID, it was more about multi-channel retailing. What COVID has done is it actually pushed us to become completely omni-channel retailer. And what that means is about being able to service the customer through our products, through our services, in whichever channel he chooses to come in, whether it's the e-commerce, whether it's the conversational commerce, whether it's a store. The store itself has become a commerce now. So if you look at overall from a commerce perspective, it is about being available at all times, all the services for every consumer from wherever he comes in and wherever he reaches to you. And it was very, very important for us to align our systems, our processes to be able to do all of this because inventories were sitting in silos. Processes were sitting in silos because each of these channels were independently working, so they all had to come together to deliver one common fundamental, one common visibility to the consumer. And the biggest piece was identifying the same customer across the entire value chain to be able to service him in a way which was never happening before. So I think that's a major focus area that has come in from a consumer's perspective. I'll just keep it short because we're running out of time. But I think it's the key thing was about bringing in transparency from an enterprise perspective in terms of our services, in terms of a product, in terms of a catalog, content, and the after-sales service, which is so important, especially when you're talking of the digital channels, because in a store, the customer is more than happy to walk back and do a return. But in case of an digital channels, he's so happy ordering for 4 products. If he likes one, keeps it, and then returning back 3 products with a no question asked policy. So you have to enable all of that as well.
Absolutely. Thanks for that, Ranjan. On similar lines, Amit, very interesting marketplace models. These are concerns organizing supply ecosystems, especially on B2B. So, can you share your insights on, how you have evolved and adapted to the disruptions of this benchmark?
So, Richa, what I think is that COVID has been a great aligner for retail. Like pre-COVID, retail has been facing these challenges, which Ranjan has also highlighted that. Typically, if I talk about apparel industry, 20% of your SKUs are performing, 80% of SKUs are just clogging your supply chain, and you are carrying all the costs around it. We have been talking about omni-channel for a long time, but with COVID coming in, all the stakeholders in the industry have come together to form a unique single solution around solving for retailing. So omni-channel is one thing wherein you are trying to reduce the inventory burden on the shelves, on your supply chain. You are looking for centralized fulfillment model that has also percolated an impact on the design of the store experience, like, that has also paved the way for new technologies like augmented reality and, other things like retail analytics and these kind of solutions, which all things are eventually going to help retailers to, to have one single seamless experience for customers across the delivery network, be it online, be it offline. Like, if you look at tomorrow's stores, I don't think that we are going to have so many shelves with so much of product inventory kept on the shelves. The future of stores would seem like, you will walk inside a store, there'll be a few products highlighted here and there with proper displays. There'll be screens, you'll stand in front of them, and the screen will tell you and you can try the whole catalog of products over there. The design of the store is going to be more experiential and less on the stocking of the inventory. Inventory probably is going to be stocked at a central place, and whatever you chooses to buy will be delivered to you maybe in 30 to 45 minutes or something like that. So I see this, the whole playbook coming together, and there are macro forces around the industry which are working towards the single objective. And we are just solving one piece of the puzzle in this whole equation, wherein we are doing our part in, making sure that the new experience which the retailers will be designing in future, they should be able to design it and execute it in a very light touch manner at a very rapid pace.
Awesome. Thanks, Amit. I think that is very, very interesting perspective on some future use cases. And interestingly, even at Accenture, we are looking at some of the prominent solutions around store of the future and customer-centric and tech-centric supply chain. So yeah, with that, Bharat, you having been associated with multiple retailers, and driving specifically, tech solutions around it, how do you think retailers have involved, their supply chain, keeping your solutions alive to the customer demand so?
Yeah, I'll be quick, given the time is up. But you see, inventory intelligence software has been into this industry, if my guess is correct, from 2004. We started this business in 2006, predominantly from US. But now the kind of requirement we are seeing post-COVID era, I think Amit and Ranjan touched upon a very important point about omni-channel retailing. And with our artificial intelligence and machine learning experience, we are trying to support those customers. So existing customers who bought inventory management solution from us, which pretty much do cycle count, and you can check the inventory on a weekly or a monthly basis. Now they are demanding support for omni-channel retailing. They want to ensure that their stores, their DCs, all products are available to the shoppers, to the customers. So we are working with one of the customer currently, almost 1,000 stores, Macy's in US, departmental stores, and they have a tagline, pick the last item. So a customer can pick an item which is available in DC, which is also in transit from the distribution center to the store stock room. So all that we are trying to support them by using machine learning, artificial intelligence, connected with cloud. So the things are changing very rapidly from a retail perspective. And bottom line is the inventory management solution, the investment they have already invested or they are going to invest, they are just not looking at inventory efficiency. They are looking at more revenue generation. How do they capture more sales? And it's all about return on investment now. And the ask from retailers are very short time. They are looking at 6-month return on investment in terms of revenue generation, increase of bottom line. So this is the new era where we are now, Richa.
Thank you so much, Harsh. I would have loved to extend this session. There's so much to hear from you, but I think we'll have to wrap it up. Thank you so much for the short discussion, but a very, very insightful one.
Thank you very much.